Hello everybody, this is Reza Dorani, Microsoft Business Application MVP. Today we're going to do a demo, a step-by-step walkthrough of utilizing UIflows, the web UI flow interface, to get route information from Bing Maps. So I will specify the from address, I will specify the to address, it will go ahead, plug it into bing.com under maps, it will plug in the from and to address, get the information for me, get the entire route information, and send it back from the web UI flow to my interface. So how do we go ahead with this? First of all, for using the web UI flow, what you need is a certain set of prerequisites that you need to incorporate. I will put the information required for the prerequisites in the description of this video. So in order for you to go ahead and build this UI flow, you can go to flow.microsoft.com or powerautomate.com, go to My Flows, go to UI Flows, which is in preview, and you click on New and you select the web app interface. Click Next. I'm going to give this a name, route info. The base URL in this case is going to be bing.com/maps. I'm going to launch the recorder, and what this is going to do is this is going to launch the Selenium IDE plugin for Chrome, because I'm using Chrome at this moment. I'm going to start the recording so it'll open Bing Maps. I'm going to plug in my address here, so 750 Town and Country Boulevard. Plugged in an address. I'm going to click on directions. All of these steps are being recorded by Selenium IDE. That's the beauty of UIflows. Now it's asking me for the from address. I'm going to put 10370 Richmond Avenue. I'm going to click on Go. This is going to give me the details. Now I only need drive route information, so I'm going to select driving, and then I'm going to select print selected route, and I'm going to go to text only because I only need the textual information. Now if I head back to my Selenium IDE and stop the recording, this is going to stop the recorder. I'm going to close this browser window and replay this just to make sure that every step that I executed before this is correct. As you can see, sometimes what happens is it does not go through completely. Sometimes it just fails to execute. So what I'm going to do is up until the point that it succeeded, it highlights it in green. I'm going to delete everything else, close the browser window, and I'm going to rerun this. It happens sometimes. It's in preview and it's utilizing Selenium IDE. All right, so I've reached to this point. I'm going to go back to the recorder. Once again, I'm going to plug in my address, 10370 Richmond Avenue, click on Go, click on Driving, click Print Selected Route, text only, go back to my recorder, stop, close the browser, clear all the logs, replay this, and wait and see if everything executes correctly. And this time, as you can see, it's gone ahead and executed everything fine. Everything's green. Perfect. Now from this DOM, I need to fetch information. And the way you do this is you can open the developer tools, okay, and go and select the elements that you need. So now over here, I have a table with a class called route summary right here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head back to Selenium IDE and I'm going to add a new step right here. So click here and go to store attribute. This is a command in Selenium IDE. If you want to understand each and every command, you can go to reference. It will tell you what this command does. So in this case, it's going to, based on the DOM element that you specify for it to target, it is going to go ahead, and then based on the attribute that you define, it's going to fetch the attribute from the DOM. Now, if you look at the DOM in this case, I have a table with a class route summary, which is going to give me this route information that I'm looking out for. So what I'm going to do in target is CSS equal to table dot the name of the class. Okay, so CSS is equal to table dot route summary. Table is the element, route summary is the class name, and CSS equal to, I'm specifying it, that use the CSS notation to go and fetch that. Once it retrieves that, I am going to put the @ symbol. Now, which attribute do you want? I need the inner HTML. And where do you want to store this in? I want to store this in a variable called route info. Now, if I close my browser and if I replay this, this will go ahead and replay all the steps again for me But this time what I'm really interested in to see is, does this turn green? And it has. That means it was able to go and look into the DOM and get that element. Now what's the value of that? For that I will have to go ahead and test this UI flow. Okay. All right, I got this information. Now, is that all I want? Maybe, maybe not, right? Maybe I need more information. Fair enough. Go ahead, search for the DOM again, right? Now here, there's this complete step-by-step directional information that is sitting in a div called dir instructions, right? So what I'm going to do, very easy. Click here. Once again, click to the next step, scroll down, click to the next step, store attribute css equal to div, because it's a div, dot the name of the class at inner html, and I'm going to call this root. In fact, the previous one was the traffic info, so let's go back here and rename this to traffic info, and let's call this one the root info. Once you're done with this, once again close your browser window and then rerun this to make sure that it was able to capture the second element as well. And it has, right? It's turned green. It says, okay, great. Now I don't want to hard code the to address and the from address. I want to actually pass these values dynamically to my UI flow. So I'm going to replace this with dollar, curly braces, and I am going to plug in the name. So the name in this case is my to address. That's the name of my variable. And then in this case, the name of my variable is the from address. Once you've done all of this, you can close the browser, of course. Click on save, because save is going to go ahead and save all of this information, all of these recorded steps, and store your web UI flow. Now I'm going to head over to flow. I'm going to create an instant flow, manually trigger this flow. I'm going to call this root info tracker. And for this flow, I'm going to ask for two pieces of information, the from address, so from where do you want to go, and to address, to where do you want to go. I'm going to click on new step, look for UIflows, look for this connector, and this has an action called run a UI flow for web. So I'm going to pick this. And for the UI flow, you will only be able to select UI flows in the same environment in which you're creating this flow. So I'm going to pick the root info because I created that web UI flow in this environment. And the moment I pick this, because I defined those two input parameters, the to address and the from address, it's asking me for those values. Now the to address, I'm going to give it from the trigger. It is to address, from address. Also, I'm going to give it from the trigger. The web browser, I'm going to pick Microsoft Edge Chromium in this case. Now this is going to send me the HTML of those tags. So it's going to give me tables, divs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a compose action to generate HTML. So I'm going to just create an HTML tag. And under this, I'm going to have two things. I'm going to have my traffic info, and you see traffic info is a dynamic attribute that is coming from the web UI action. That's because I defined that in my web UI flow while I was recording it in Selenium IDE. So I'm going to pick this. And the next thing, what I am going to enter right here is my root info. That's it. I've created my HTML. I am going to go ahead and send an email. And the to address for this email, I'm going to switch over and pick the email of the user who's triggering this flow. My subject is going to be root info. My body is going to be root info for my from address. That's coming from the input parameter. So root info from this address to this address. No, that's my to address. To address. And if I want to format it, I can go back to HTML and maybe I can make this bold. I can just add a bold tag around this address, and maybe I want to do the same for my to address as well. So when this email goes out, the from and the to address is highlighted, and of course I want to send the root information that's captured from Bing. So the attachment is going to be root.html, and the content of this attachment is going to be the compose action. So the output of the compose action. Perfect. I'm going to save this. And if everything's good and the demo gods are with me, I'm going to go and test this flow. So when I run this flow, it's going to ask me for a from address, which I have randomly picked from the internet. So I'm just going to put a from address, and I'm going to also put a to address in there. All right, I'm going to run this flow. Now, when I run this flow, notice what's going to happen. The web UI flow is going to be called, and I'm not doing any mouse clicks. I'm not doing anything. All of this is being automatically done by the web UI flow. This is robotic process automation. It's going to pass those values over from my flow to the web UI flow, those dynamic input parameters. It's going to go ahead and execute all those actions that I recorded, and based on all those recorded actions and based on the output parameters that I defined, it's going to go ahead and fetch those parameters for me. And once it gets that data, it's going to go ahead and create an HTML for me, and then it is going to go ahead and send me an email that should have all that information that it captured from the web. Okay, so right now this flow is currently executing, as you can see, and once this web UI flow executes, it's still running. All right, it has gone ahead. Let's look at the output information that this web UI flow is providing: my from address, my to address, and here is the response, right? The to from address, here's the traffic info, that's the HTML tags that I asked it for, and the root info. Both of them are right here. And then I went ahead and created this compose action, and then I sent an email. Now, if I directly look at that email, this is what that email looks like. It says, hey, root info from my from address to my to address is right here. Got an HTML file. Let's save this file on my laptop, and let's open this file, and boom, there you go. See this? 6 minutes, 1 mile, heavy traffic. Here's the distance, and here's the step-by-step guided path to that destination.